Hello students, welcome to Shri classes. We'll begin with lecture number 2, chapter 15, our environment. Topics discussed: food webs and how do human activities affect the environment. These are very small topics and very quickly we'll rush through this. What is food web? See here, as the name suggests, food web or food webs. This is the representation of a food web. Here also this is the diagram. This is taken from textbook. See, food web is a group of several interconnected food chains. Very simple definition. Food web, this is the food web, which is an interconnection of several food chains. Interconnected food chains forms the food webs. Important, in a food web, an organism gets food from more than one group of organisms or more than one chain, you can say. Let me take example over here. Hawk, grass, of course this is grass here, it should have been grasshopper actually speaking, okay, grass, here I can put a grasshopper. Frogs can feed on the grasshopper and snakes can feed on the frogs. Hawk can feed on this. There is a parallel food chain here: grass, insects, birds, snake and hawk. So for hawk, it can get the food from this food chain as well as this food chain. Therefore, the interconnected food chains, such interconnected food chains form a food web. Food web is a network of interconnected food chains. Very simple. Food web is a network of interconnected food chains. You can study this diagram to understand few more interconnected food chains. And here you can see the lion, a tiger. These are the different food chains through which it can get the food. Here also there is one something like this. It goes like this. So the interconnected food chains form a food web. That's all. Nothing else to be discussed in this. Next comes, there is one process called biological magnification, which is also called biomagnification. What is this important? You should know. Definitely there is going to be a one question on explain biological magnification. What is it? We use pesticides and insecticides for protection of the crops. But these pesticides and insecticides, we have seen already that these are non-biodegradable non-biodegradable substances. DDT or any insecticide or pesticides, these are the substances which are non-biodegradable. What happens if we spray these on the plants? Plants will absorb these chemicals. When the herbivores eat these plants, the concentrations of these non-biodegradable substances will increase in herbivores. When carnivores eat the herbivores, further the concentration of these non-biodegradable substances such as pesticides and insecticides, which are harmful chemicals, will increase in carnivores. Omnivores, when they eat carnivores as well as when they eat plants, further the concentration of these chemicals will increase. So if you look at the top of the pyramid of the trophical levels, gradually the concentration of these harmful chemicals will increase from one trophic level to another trophic level. And this process of gradual increase in harmful chemicals from lower trophic level to higher trophic level is called a biomagnification or biological magnification. So let me read this one now. Harmful chemicals such as insecticides and pesticides, which are used to protect crops from insects and pests, are absorbed by the plants and enter the food chain. So generally these insecticides and pesticides, or for that matter the harmful chemicals, will enter the food chain through plants. Since these chemicals are non-biodegradable, they get accumulated at every trophic level and their concentration increases. Since human beings occupy the highest trophic level, the concentration of these harmful chemicals is maximum in the bodies of human beings. So this is the explanation how these harmful chemicals enter into the food chain and where we find the maximum concentration. The definition of biological magnification is given here. The increase in concentration of harmful chemicals such as insecticides and pesticides in the bodies of the organisms at higher trophic levels is called a biological magnification or biomagnification. Simple to understand. Make a note of this. One example we'll take here: grass, deer and lion. Producers, primary consumer, that is herbivores, secondary consumer, that is carnivores. DDT is 10 parts per million. ppm means parts per million. It is one of the ways of measuring the concentrations. 10 parts per million means if you consider the DDT chemical, out of 1 million parts, 10 parts is available in grass. Meaning out of 10 lakh parts, 1 million means 10 lakhs. Out of 10 lakh parts, 10 parts are there in grass. So very less here itself. So if there is 10 ppm in the grass, when the herbivores such as deer eat this grass, the concentration increases from 10 ppm to 200 ppm. How many times? 20 times. Isn't it? Now, when the lion feeds on the deer, the concentration increases to 5000 ppm. From 10 ppm to 5 ppm. 500 times it increased in the third trophic level. Is it not? And therefore, this is one of the examples you can give, the example for biological magnification process. Maximum concentration of such chemicals is accumulated in human bodies, that one should know. This is about the biological magnification. There is one more example over here. This pyramid has been taken where you have a phytoplankton and bacteria. This refers to the aquatic, basically, aquatic and terrestrial both, of course. Here the increase in concentration, increase in mercury concentration is given in this example. At the bottom of the pyramid you have phytoplankton and bacteria. Just a moment, let us read the title: Accumulation of Mercury in the Food Chain. How this mercury enters into the food chain and how is the accumulation of mercury, it is given in this diagram. Mercury is very poisonous for animals, in fact for human beings also. How does this mercury enter into the food chain? Generally, especially the paper industries or some other industries, when they release their waste materials into rivers, ponds, lakes, etc., that is the source for mercury in water bodies. So in water bodies we have phytoplanktons and zooplanktons. What are phytoplanktons? Microorganisms which are plants basically. Zooplanktons, microorganisms which are animals. Phytoplankton examples could be diatoms, bacteria, cyanobacteria, etc. And what are zooplanktons? Protozoans basically. So in aquatic bodies we have phytoplankton and bacteria, insects and zooplankton, small fishes and other aquatic species, and big fishes and birds and mammals will be there finally over here. So when the wastewater is released into the water bodies, the mercury level which contains mercury, then the water bodies will get contaminated with the mercury that will be absorbed by the phytoplanktons and bacteria, and insects and zooplankton which depend on them, the concentration increases in them. Once again, the small fishes and other aquatic species which feed on insects and zooplankton, further the concentration increases in the small fishes, and thus there is an increase in concentration of mercury from the lowest trophic level to the highest trophic level, that is ultimately human beings. So this is one example where the concentration of mercury, which is harmful chemical, increases from lower trophic level to the higher trophic level. Here also you can see from the plants, animals to the human beings, the increasing concentrations of fat soluble environmental contaminants from low levels to higher levels. You can see this diagram. This is only for understanding. Next we talk about how do human activities affect the environment. See, there are two aspects over here. How do human activities affect the environment? One is the ozone layer, which we are talking about, and another is the garbage that we produce. These are the two parameters we would like to see how these need to be handled. So, what is ozone layer and how it is getting depleted? What is its function is what we are going to study. Ozone is at the higher levels of the atmosphere. It is a product of ultraviolet radiation acting on O2 molecule. That means how this ozone is formed, let us see. The higher energy of ultraviolet radiations which are released by the sun, the higher energy UV radiations, ultraviolet radiations split apart some molecular oxygen into free oxygen. That means ultraviolet radiations which are present in the sun rays are high energy UV radiations. They will split oxygen molecule into free oxygen atoms. These free oxygen atoms combine with molecular oxygen O2 to form ozone as shown here. O2 is split into nascent oxygen atoms by high energy ultraviolet radiations present in the sun rays. Then one of this O atom reacts with molecular oxygen, which is O2, to form O3 ozone. O3 is the formula for ozone. It is highly a poisonous gas. But what is the function of this one? The ozone layer present in the higher level of the atmosphere protects the earth from harmful UV radiations from the sun. Ultraviolet radiations causes skin cancer in humans, and also this causes cataract in human eyes. So, of course, ozone layer protects the plants and animals on the earth, or you can say it protects the earth's layer. The ozone layer is being damaged by the use of chemicals like chlorofluorocarbons, which are generally termed as CFCs, used in refrigerators and fire extinguishers. See, the property of chlorofluorocarbons is such that whenever these gases, when these gases are compressed and released through a nozzle or a jet, the sudden expansion of these gases will lead to sudden decrease in temperature. The temperature goes below minus 20 degrees Celsius, and therefore such gases are used in refrigerants and of course in fire extinguishers for extinguishing the fires. But what happens when we use these CFCs? See here, generally when oxygen molecules split into nascent oxygen atoms, we expect nascent oxygen atoms being reactive to react with O2 to form O3 molecule. But when the CFCs are released into the atmosphere, these chlorofluorocarbons will react with nascent oxygens and prevent formation of the ozone layer. I hope you are able to understand. Chlorofluorocarbons, when released into the environment or atmosphere, they react with this nascent oxygen and thus they prevent formation of the ozone layer, and therefore the depletion of the ozone layer takes place. And hence in 1987, the United Nations Environmental Program UNEP succeeded in forging an agreement to freeze CFC production at 1986 levels. It is now mandatory for all the manufacturing companies to make CFC free refrigerators throughout the world. Nowadays we are not using chlorofluorocarbons, but we are using some other chemicals such as R22 in refrigerators. So by minimizing the usage of chlorofluorocarbons, the ozone depletion can be prevented, and which is the most important layer, on the higher levels of the atmosphere for the protection of the earth. So this is about the ozone layer, how it protects us, and what causes the ozone depletion and how to prevent. So make a note of this slide. Next, managing the garbage we produce. Improvements in our lifestyle have resulted in greater amounts of waste material generation. Is it not? Of course, our lifestyle also matters. If you have a plenty of money, you'll buy hundreds of Tetra Packs per month and drink the cold drinks and etc. and all, and you dispose them. So thing is, changes in packagings have also resulted in much of our waste becoming non-biodegradable. So basically the improvement in our lifestyle and packaging, changes in the packaging materials, these are the things which have resulted in generation of non-biodegradable waste materials. The household waste is called a garbage. What is that garbage basically? The domestic waste is called a garbage. Some of the garbage is biodegradable and some are non-biodegradable. Garbage causes pollution of air, water and soil. Definitely it will cause. So it should be disposed properly. If it is to be disposed properly, what are the methods? These are some of the methods we can adopt for disposal of the garbage. Landfilling, recycling, production of biogas and manure, preparation of compost, incineration and sewage treatment. See, if some of the garbage produced are biodegradable, then only we can go for a landfill. If those are non-biodegradable, then landfilling will create a soil pollution. What about recycling? Some of these materials, the waste materials, need to be recycled. That means, for example, if I use cups for drinking tea and all, tea, coffee, instead of plastic cups, yes, of course, these paper cups can be recycled. That means this can be crushed and once again it can be used in the manufacturing of the new cups, either partially or fully. That way, recycling helps to manage the garbage. Production of biogas and manure. Most of the residue of the plants and animals can be utilized for the production of biogas and manure. That is how we can dispose the garbage. And preparation of the compost. Compost, especially the wilted leaves or the agricultural waste produce, can be utilized for the production of biogas and manure. Preparation of the it is used for preparation of the compost I am talking about. What is incineration? Incineration refer to the burning of some of the non-biodegradable waste materials. Suppose some waste materials are cannot be dumped into the soil and which are non-biodegradable, they may sustain, they remain in the earth's crust for a longer duration and may cause soil pollution. And therefore, such non-biodegradable substances can be incinerated. That means those can be burnt. But again, that may cause atmospheric pollution and heat energy is required. Energy should be spent in incineration. Incineration means burning process. So therefore, it is always preferable to avoid going for non-biodegradable substances at all. We have to refuse them. Not only reduce, we have to refuse them. Reject, refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle. These are 5 R's which you have studied in your 9th standard. Finally, sewage treatment. The domestic waste such as sewage needs to be treated properly. Solid waste needs to be separated from the liquid waste. Solid waste should be utilized for conversion. Solid waste must be utilized for preparation of the manure or the compost, whereas liquid can be recycled and can be used for gardening purpose and flushing of the toilets or maybe partially for agricultural purpose. This is how sewage treatment also helps in treatment of the garbage that we produce. Here you can see some of the diagrams. This is a landfilling. Here this is an incinerator, and here it is for the recycling purpose, and here biogas production, and here it is the compost, preparation of the compost. Dig the pit put some leaves and all, and cow dung, and leave some worms, such as you can leave the worms also inside, and it is called a vermicompost if we use the worms and all to produce the compost that is used for as a manure to the plants. So these are some of the diagrams which we have given. So this is how what is garbage and how we can manage garbage. Some of the points have been given over here. Next, the same diagrams which is given. Yeah, here think it over. Disposable cups and trains. See, it is preferable to go for disposable cups in trains, such as, see here, some time back, Kulhards, that is disposable cups made of clay, were suggested as an alternative. But remember, problem kya hai? But a little thought showed that making these Kulhards on a large scale would result in the loss of fertile topsoil. That is also a problem, students. So, new disposable paper cups are being used. What do you think are advantages of disposable paper cups over disposable plastic cups? Paper cups can be preferred definitely, because even though the paper requires plant as a raw material, recycling of the paper can be done, and therefore we can reduce the usage of plants, and thereby, and also of course it meets the requirements, and hence usage of paper cups than plastic cups is much advantageous, whereas plastic cups are non-biodegradable and disposal is the biggest problem. Yes, dear students, we have completed this chapter in all respects. So it's a small chapter. You can expect about 3 to 4 marks questions from this, and we'll end the lecture over here. And in my next class, I'll be taking the question answers on this chapter. That's also, there's a PPT, probably, I think so. So we'll rush through the question answers. Please read the textbook as much as possible. Here, making notes and all for these chapters will not help. It is preferable to read the chapters thoroughly several times. Maybe about 16-17 times you need to read this chapter before you take the final exam, especially the last EVS chapters which I am talking about. So go through the textbook, and we'll end the lecture over here. In my next class, I'll be taking question answers based on this chapter. So thank you very much for watching.